to you from Studio HQ. This is the first episode of the Sunder Katz. Why Sunder? Because we're going to talk about something different, in particular Image Comics. And why cats? Because we're the coolest cats in town. With me today, I have Reno Noir from Six Elements of Hip Hop. Welcome to the show, my man.
Salute. How you doing, man?
Very, very good. And I have a creator with us. He's creating works on Truthful Comics and also co-creator of Buy Indie Comics Day. I have Manuel Carmona. Welcome.
What's going on?
Not much. So as I said, the first episode will be about Image Comics. Image Comics have been around since '92, created by the famous founding fathers, as you can see here, and we have, Jim Lee, Valentino,
Larson,
Eric Larson, Liefeld, and everybody else involved, especially the Todd father, and Mark Silvestri, Will Spataccio,
Rockstar, the Rockstar.
Absolutely,
yeah. The first, I think they're the first comic artist rock stars in the business.
I was just thinking that, yes.
They really were, because I think just their name alone sold books, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, big
time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an image of them, I think, in the last couple of years. You can see age has caught up with them, but they still look pretty good, man. Like, I think rock stars don't age, right?
Right. Rob
they got money
the same.
Right, they got money to go to the gym and pay for facials and stuff.
Buy all that good health food.
That is so true, so true. And this video, which is titled The Image Revolution, if you haven't watched it, especially if you're really intrigued as to what happened with these creators and how it all started, it's actually a really good documentary to watch. Have you guys watched this?
Oh yeah, phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I think any big comic fan definitely saw that on. They were like, "Oh, got to see this."
Yeah, absolutely,
very good.
Yeah, and it's like one you can watch more than once, which is really nice.
Yeah.
I actually when I get a art block or something, I'm drawing, I put it on in the background and have it as background noise, and it just pumps me up.
Wow, yeah, motivation. Right?
Oh, no doubt.
Nice,
fantastic. So I want to go around the board, guys. Reno, what was your first Image comic?
Spawn, man. Yeah, Spawn #1. I was it was 92, so I was maybe 13 years old, and I was actually in a grocery store and saw it on the aisle, where the cash register is, right there, where they used to have comics there, like where the candy and all of that was back in the day. Wow. I was just getting into comics. I was into Carnage and Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man run and all of that stuff that I was just getting into, and I saw Spawn, and it was like, that's it. Like, that's what I've been looking for. Like, that's the badass, mask. Like, he just was, everything was dope. Like, the cape everywhere and the chains. I mean, it was exactly, the kind of thing at that time, at that age. And I was an artist too, so I drew a lot, and it was just the kind of stuff that I was into. So it was like a no-brainer. I grabbed #1, and that was my first one. And I pretty much picked up every Spawn as it came out off the newsstand for probably about 15 issues.
Do you still have hold of that issue? Because the newsstand edition is actually worth more than the comic book store.
I wish, bro. I wish. At one point, like, I had them. I had 1 through 15 newsstands, but this is back when I didn't know the difference between a newsstand or a direct. I'm 13. Like, I didn't think, that.
That's true.
You can't hold on to stuff. I think probably I turned about 16, got my driver's license, started chasing broads, and just kind of left comics alone for the most part. And maybe another year or two later, I was getting my first apartment, and I think I went and I sold all my comics for, like, to help with the down payment on the crib. It's not, not thinking like you're gonna want these in 20 years. No,
of course.
But of course, everybody wishes they had their childhood comics, right?
Indeed, they do. And you, Manny, what was your first book? Was also Spawn, correct?
That's true. Yeah, mine. I'm an artist myself, so I was drawn to Tuck McFarlane's line work, and I think I might have seen his small illustration in a Hero magazine back way back in the day.
Yeah.
And it caught my eye. I was like, what is this? So yeah, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I need to grab this. And I still have all my original Spawn books.
No way.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and I actually have 2 #1 Spawns, and now I have to look into to see which ones I have the newsstand, because I don't know. I just got it from
you got it from the newsstand, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Nice.
Yeah, we all did. I think that's why newsstands are so valuable, because as kids you get them off the newsstand, and a lot of kids folded them up or rolled them and threw them in their back pocket. So finding a newsstand in great condition is a lot harder, obviously, than someone who ordered a book and got it. So I wish I had mine.
I don't know if they do it in the States, but in Australia, if they like if the book's old, they cut out the barcode.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've seen that in magazines, but like
magazines. I've never seen it.
Please put it through that.
That's painful.
I know, right? Yeah. And one thing this really caught my eye. We can see inside the first page of Spawn #1, it's got dedicated to Jack Kirby. I mean, what a way to pay respect, right?
Absolutely, to the master, king of it all,
sir.
boss of it all, right?
Yeah. And apparently, they I know the creators actually wanted to hire Jack Kirby to do some work, but obviously he was getting on with age, and but I mean, how nice would have been, right?
Oh man,
yeah. They ended up doing Phantom Force, which is basically the last story that he actually drew, and each one of the creators ink a page, and that's actually the biggest paycheck that he ever got from that book. Ain't that crazy? With all the characters he created,
right?
Yeah,
it's a shame, man. He doesn't
really
get his due, man. Everybody Stan Lee, but Stan Lee wrote great characters and wrote a great story, and of course, you can't take anything away from him. But the image we have of those characters is all Kirby.
It's Kirby.
Yeah. Even Spider-Man, Jack Kirby had his paws on that one as well. All right, so I'll talk about my first book, because I'm a sucker for Jim Lee.
Oh, no doubt.
Wow, I just sold that comic signed by Jim Lee. I just sold it to somebody too.
Oh,
hey, and you didn't sell it to me, you bastard. No, the thing with this, because in Australia we didn't really have a lot of comic book stores. We had newsstands, but I had a friend of mine who would frequent the comic book store, which wasn't local, so I couldn't really call it LSC. So, or LCS, sorry. Okay. So he had to. So what he did almost like a deal on the side. He had his side business where he would sell me comics. So he'd go to the comic store and he would sell it to me. So that's how I got my first Wildcast #1. So that was really big for me, because, and I think Manny, you mentioned this before. This, the work that that Jim Lee did as well as Liefeld was a cookie cut of the X-Men, right? Because if you look at this, it almost looks like the X-Men team, just with different layout and designs, but they look like they could appear as like villains of the X-Men, or like new allies that Jim Lee would have created, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Spartan looks like Havoc.
Good point out.
Grifter looks awesome back there, and
it's
looks like something you would see, Cable or somebody Shatterstar popping out of there. So
yeah,
exactly. And that's another thing too. Just to jump into Liefeld, the amount of creators that he created for X-Force were like unheard of, right? Like almost every X-Force or New Mutants book, he just created these new characters, and some of them were practical, some of them not so much, but they were fun. And that's one thing I liked about the energy that Jim Lee and Liefeld brought to the X-Men, were the fact that they could just create all these new characters.
Yep.
And it was good to see that they're
there it is.
Don't forget New Mutants. Yeah.
Oof, nice.
First Deadpool, first Cable.
And don't forget Gideon. Because I think Gideon was the vocal character in that book.
Right. Yeah.
Gideon.
Anyway, yeah.
You got Gideon, Domino on here. Yeah.
Okay.
Cable, Gideon, Domino, Deadpool, of course, Cannonball, everybody.
Yeah, is absolutely. Just moving back to Image though, like when they started, they were very much a superhero type book. But over the years, especially under Jim Valentino's leadership in the Helm, he kind of drifted to more storytelling and less about superheroes. Because if you think about superhero books, I think you'd mainly look at Savage Dragon as well as Spawn.
Yep.
Then we've got a new book called something black. I just can't think of it at the moment, but I do have an image of it somewhere in the presentation I have, and then that will come to mind and I can talk about it a bit. So we're going to go around and we're going to showcase some books that Image have brought out at, say, in the last 12 months, because this book is hot. This book is absolutely hot, so hot that they've reprinted each issue 5 times.
Wow.
And that is Stray Dogs #1.
Going bananas.
It's crazy.
Reno, what were your thoughts about Stray Dogs?
Not probably not since Saga have I felt such anxiety reading a comic. Maybe it's the unsettling opening scene focusing on like the wide-eyed, terrified pup protagonist Sophie, or the beautiful character designs and how they immediately brought to mind the works of Don Bluth or Disney films from the 80s.
Absolutely.
You know, or maybe just the fact that most comics from Image nowadays tend to get dark really quickly, and I immediately feared for the well-being of our adorable canine cast. Regardless, I found it difficult to put down.
Yeah,
absolutely. What about you, Manny? What were your thoughts?
I was drawn immediately. It was very like action. Can you hear me?
Can you say that again?
I can hear you. Yeah, it was
just... yeah. No, I said that the first thing that draw me in was the artwork, like a Disney animated movie or something.
Absolutely.
And I think what makes it very distinct from a Disney Crusade, the color they did it like it almost looked like watercolor, and I'm sure it's every color. I did it on purpose just to make it stand out, you know. Or it feels more. But I love the story. Yeah, everything that is. They put any like call it doggy fact. Like dogs they're loyal to the master that they don't. You can beat them with a bat and they'll come back to you and like short-term memory and all these elements that I'm like, wow, man, they got A+ for that.
Yeah, I felt that too. Like it was so pleasant to read, like in terms of the image and the color. Very warm, very sharp. You're right, very much a Don Bluth type. But there's something absolutely sinister that is going to happen. And and the premise was basically it's Lady and the Tramp meets Silence of the Lambs. Like,
my goodness, yes.
Like that's a horrible way to express a book, but it's fantastic. It's written by Tony Fleece with art by Trish Forstner. You know, great work. As I said before, the art style is hot. You know, even with the reprints, they've reprinted the books with homages to movie posters, which I love.
Yes, that's awesome.
And Tony Fleeks is no stranger to the animal kingdom, having written and drawn a number of comics in the My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic franchise. The worlds he's created is pretty far removed from Equestria. You know, it's and it has much more in common with the dark underworld of like all dogs go to heaven.
Yes,
that's right. Yep.
And as you can see, or if you are listening, there's posters of new books coming out. One called Shadescraft, which I like. Oh, Radiant Black. That was the book I was thinking of before. Another superhero book. This was the first new superhero book, probably in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
it's like blowing up everywhere.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so we're gonna talk about. Oh, and sorry, that's just a little poster of issue number 2.
It's cool that they're doing all the different like horror movie posters.
Yeah,
kind of homage.
Yeah, I think so
really,
too.
It's a neat gimmick. Yeah,
it really is. Okay, so the second book to focus on is The Me You Love in the Dark.
Phenomenal.
Reno, what were your thoughts?
Phenomenal. It's published by Image, of course, written by Scotty Young, one of my favorites, art by George Carmona. And after a long period of struggling to get her art going in the isolation of her new home, the main character Ro kind of discovered that she wasn't quite alone as she thought she was. And the big question now is like, what is occupying her house with her? What is that? And haunted house movies is how the character reacts to discovering that their house is indeed haunted. Should they flee, or should they approach the situation from a rational, sort of level-headed place? And while the reaction for each individual would be different, I think most would land somewhere in between the two extremes. And the concept of the existence of ghosts has been postulated enough that the discovery wouldn't be so mind-blowing. But I think it would still be rattling for sure. But this middle ground is where The Me You Love in the Dark number 2 finds the character Ro as she grapples with the revelation that she's got a housemate.
Yeah, and Manny, the artwork, it goes very dark. And the text. As a creator, what were your thoughts? What did you take?
Look, I'm gonna tell you something. From all the books that I've read, and from all the books that we read for the show, for the episode, these are my favorites. And I wasn't expecting it at all. I had no idea what this story was about. I actually have bought the first issue, and I had it in my reading pile.
Oh, really?
And it just happened. Go figure, right? And I was like, oh, okay, so I'll read it, and it blew my mind. The artwork is, I feel it's like it's almost like Humberto Ramos mixed with Sean Murphy. That's how I would describe it. It's very detailed but cartoony at the same time.
Right.
Very dark. And it's almost like it's a wicked romance story. As far as we see, but it almost felt like Lovecraft, like reading a Lovecraft novel or something.
Right, because he does good at maintaining like the balance between like what to show and what not to show the reader.
Exactly,
which is very crafty and
And when you actually get to see what it is, you're like, oh my goodness, she's not expecting this at all.
Right.
Yeah, that is so true. It feels. Have you seen the movie The Shape of Water? Has that romance between the protagonist woman and the sea creature? That's the kind of thing you can see here, because as a ghost, he's not out just to haunt her. He's probably bored and thinking like, this person wants to have a chat. And she kind of wants to have a chat as well. So it's like there's like a mutual ground there. Whereas it's like, okay, like he's not trying to scare me or anything, although he's probably is scary, but that's not his intentions.
Exactly. And one thing I noticed is that it caught my attention was that it's like a side thing in the story, but it's like the art block that she has that's basically the reason why she's in that house. She's trying to find herself, and that's the way she words it. But me being an artist, and the Scotty Young being the writer, and Corona the artist, I'm sure they've experienced it, because you can tell how the way they illustrate it, how she has having this hard block day after day. She can't find what to put on the paper, and that I can tell you that's exactly how you feel when you have an art block.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because you know what you're supposed to do, but you cannot do it, and they depict it so perfectly. I love that.
Oh yeah, I've been writing a book for the past 2 years now. I haven't written in 6 months because when you lose it, sometimes it's hard to find, man. It
It's
really
so
is.
difficult.
Really,
Yes.
just find
But I
that
think
way
like
to trigger your brain to go back in.
back
Oh
to
man, I
what you were
wish.
saying, Dodgy. I love how Scotty Young's what he's deciding what to make the spirit say or not say kind of creates this uncertainty, surrounding the being. Like he presents himself as a polite, considerate presence, but I think something is like just off enough to make it feel strange. There's something comes across a bit cold, and with
Yeah, I
that,
think so
weird
too.
lettering. It's like, I wonder what we're gonna find out about it. That's
Just remember, this is a 5-issue run, so this is issue number 2 that we read. But we also had the privilege to read issue number 1, and I'll tell you what, I read 2 simultaneous like that, and I actually felt I read one story. Like I didn't feel like I was reading 2 issues. It was just like watching 2 episodes on Netflix back to back. You just have the drive. You just feel like
It was amazing. Yeah, it's probably that and King's Spawn have been my 2 favorite comics in the whole year so far. So that's I wasn't expecting that at all.
I know, me neither.
Definitely my 2 favorites out of this pile.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's just one little advert that was inside the same book was the essential guide to comic book lettering. I think it's great if you're as a creator like yourself, Manny, you must appreciate seeing something like this, right?
No doubt. Yes, and I'm sure anybody that picks it up is gonna get some from it.
Absolutely.
Right. And Picos does the lettering. He does an excellent job of placing the dialogue throughout the book. And, as the creature is generally off panel or otherwise obscured, the dialogue for it is much less grounded, which gives the letterer more control over like where to place it. And he does an excellent job utilizing that.
100%.
That's true.
Okay. So the next book is Deadly Class number 48 by Rick Remender, with art by Wes Craig and Lee Loveridge. Reno, what were your thoughts on this hodgepodge?
It was basically you got Marcus and his cadre of students attack the king's, the faculty of King's Dominion, and that's as far as synopsizing goes, because this really the kind of story that readers should experience on their own. Suffice it to say, there are action, thrills, and a rather surprising ending. But it really feels like Remender pulled out all the stops for this one, from action to Marcus's captions to everything that happens in the issue. And Remender hits the next level with this issue, I think. And in it, you can hear his plea to the new generation. He's definitely taught. And, one of Marcus's deals with the students working with him is not to kill the other students. And his rationale is that they must be better than the generations that came before, and Marcus keeps the promise throughout the rest of the book. In fact, it's rather surprising how far he goes with that. And he's Marcus is I don't know if you guys have been reading Deadly Class at all, but
to be honest, I don't.
Okay, well, Marcus has changed, and this issue really shows it. And it works for the plot, and it works for Remender's message with the chapter. And I think he wants to show the young that the young can be better and learn from the mistakes of those before them.
Yeah.
And Manny, from a creator's perspective, looking at the art, what were your thoughts on the art? Because I think the paneling were unreal.
Yeah, the design of the art design, the panel layouts, everything is very stylistic. It's very it looks really cool. The artwork it fits perfectly because it's very like sketchy and almost frenetic when you look at it. It's super violent, almost like a kick-ass feel to it. But the story, like I said, I haven't been reading it, so it's like you're dropped in the middle of a war zone. You're like, okay, which way do I go? Who's the villain here? I mean, you immediately you pretty quickly you find that the teachers somehow are evil. But yeah, I think it's like a story that you have to be reading it for more than one issue to really care for the characters, to really understand what's going on. It's just the only thing I got out of it is just it was a crazy fight, and like he said, is basically you have to the young students have to do something different than the teachers. Obviously, the teachers were wrong. But yeah, it was insanity.
Yeah, so many thrills in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're a new reader and if you pick this up, it's great that Image have like heaps of trades, so you can start from the very beginning. So, and that's one thing about Image that do more than say any other publisher is that they've always got trades. So whenever the 5th issue hits of a mini series or a if they know that issue number 6 is going to come out the same day that number 6 comes out, the trade will be out for issues 1 to 5. So, or I could be wrong. It could be between 1 to 6 and then come out in issue number 7. Depends on which book it is. They generally would do that. So that's the thing that's really great about Image, is that they will always show fans what give the ability to catch up. And you nailed it, Manny. Like when you, I did feel the same way. It's like hitting a movie and suddenly you're in the fight scene and the climatic ending. I actually had no idea what was happening, but at the same time, I was just mesmerized by the art. And
exactly.
I think all in all, this particular issue is one of the best issues of this comic ever, and the entire creative team turns in some fantastic work. It's action packed. Drops readers right into things like you said, like you're already going 60 miles an hour, and then just but it's the end of an arc. This is the end of this story arc, and it's a great way to end it. And it's pretty much a perfect issue of Deadly Class, and it sets a high bar for the eventual end of the book.
And did we mention there was 48 issues in? Like, that's insane.
That's crazy.
To be able to come up with something like that after 48 issues, I'm just bamboozled, bro.
Right. That is crazy.
All right. So this book is really, really, I was really excited for this. Like the first ongoing series since 1992, and that is Kingspawn #1. Reno, what are your thoughts?
The launch of this book, nearly 3 decades in the making, further expands the Spawn universe with a growing presence of heaven and hell and the heroes here on Earth. And as we learned, like on Al Mega's interview with Todd McFarlane, he basically broke down, Spawn's universe and how it was going to lead into King Spawn and the whole, it's what do you call it, where there's a bunch of stories in the anthology. Right, anthology. And but you have a classic villain from Spawn's past that's begun asserting his powers on Earth and by corrupting as many souls as possible. And only Spawn knows that he exists. Like continuing dramatic battles from Spawn's universe, #1, which is where this all begins. And it kind of, there's different stories. So you get, the first story about King Spawn, and then we've got, you've got the Haunted, the Gunslinger. It was just awesome, man. I just love the anthology style. Nightmare, Hero. It's just awesome, man. I really, really dug this. And I couldn't wait. Like reading Spawn's universe was such a big change from what Spawn has been for all these years. It was not like it was boring or anything, but it was what it was. But this kind of turned it a little bit, kind of changed it, give us something new. And I couldn't wait for this one. And I was definitely liked it a lot.
Yeah, indeed. And Manny, just with the actual pages where you had like the crown above the title character, the title of the name, and then just the wording, what were your thoughts on that? Because I was like, that was new.
I love that. I love that. Spawn's logo is so recognizable. The face, that face logo, and I think they're trying to make it so that when you see that crown, you recognize that Spawn. And so far, it's working for me. Anytime I see that crown, okay, what are they saying about Spawn?
Yeah.
And so it's working. And I really dig it. And it's identifying Spawn is becoming like the Batman. King Spawn is basically the Batman of the whole series. Like, y'all are powerful, but I'm the king. I'm the one that you need to bow down to. So they're making a point to, all right, y'all are strong or whatever, but he's the one you need to be looking out for.
Yeah. And like you said, like Batman, there's a noir element to this, like a noir detective, like yeah, it kind of gave me that vibe too. So that's a good
And,
comparison.
and Spawn has always been dark, but this book starts dark.
Right, very dark.
I mean,
Very, very dark.
from the first page, you're like, holy cow, man, we're going into deep waters here.
Yep.
And I love that they're using all these characters that I've been wanting to see for so long. The Haunt, they're bringing Sam and Twitch again, which I love so much.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much stuff. That Gunslinger Spawn, he's becoming more prominent.
Yeah, and that's my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so cool, and it gives a backstory onto what actually happened to him, which I loved. I loved. But yeah, I love this book from beginning to end, man. I was waiting so hard for this book, and it didn't disappoint.
No, I totally agree. Like, I just loved how you kind of mentioned it, Reno. There's brought new life to the Spawn franchise by introducing all these characters that weren't used for a while. Like as he said, Manny, Sam, Twitch, the Redeemer, Haunt, and all those other characters.
Nightmare, the hero, yeah.
But I think Gunslinger is probably my favorite Spawn, and he's coming
It's
out
so
soon.
cool. It's so cool. He's such a cool character.
I love that spaghetti western. Like I love like Cad Bane in Star Wars is my I love that dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like Stephen King's Gunslinger, The Dark Tower. I just love that whole vibe, that whole kind of that trope, that sort of genre there, and it's two of the best best parts of the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just before we move on, but this scene, like in all Spawn books, since the very first issue, is still ongoing, and I think Todd borrowed this from The Dark Knight Returns, because
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I just loved how he just continues to use it. It kind of like sets the stage as to what's going to happen throughout the book, and I just love that it's still being used till this day. Amazing.
And a quick little detail. This issue is the first time that they've actually drawn these three characters in a completely different. They look pretty much the same, but for all the previous issues that they've used them, they used the same template. It was Tom McFarlane's drawings, and they basically drew on top of them. This is the first time they've actually they look completely different if you actually look at them. And it's because this is
drew it himself.
Yeah, it's because this is going to be the new ongoing artist from what I've been reading. Yeah, so he's basically making it his own. It's like I'm gonna just draw it however I want.
Fantastic, nice pickup there, Manny. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Gunslinger Spawn comes out October 2021. Check out your local comic book store. I think we all will, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Brad Booth art.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we've got the final book that we want to share with you guys, and that is Helm Greycastle, number 4 of 4. So this is the final issue by Henry Barajas and Claire Napier, with art by Ramat Handoko and Brian Valenza. Reno, what were your thoughts on this classic?
It was this is one of those books that I wanted to get into when I first saw it, but I haven't had time and I just didn't get into it. So I haven't read the previous ones. It was a little bit, kind of hard to get into from issue 4, but it basically we got a group of misfits, to save the last dragon prince from the kidnappers. With a twist on like that sort of swords and sorcery tale. It's almost like a Dungeons and Dragons in Aztec. You got Montezuma and just amazing artwork. I love the art style and that old-fashioned RPG role-playing game type of vibe. But it just flowed, man. It was really, really a cool story. Now I'm definitely gonna go back and read the first 3 for sure.
Yeah, and someone from South American roots and seeing like characters from, say, the Great Crusade. What were your thoughts in seeing these sorts of characters and real life Crusaders brought to life?
It was cool, man. I'm actually like a history nut. I love history.
Nice.
So that's the first thing I noticed. Well, they're talking about Aztec culture. They're talking about Hernan Cortez, which was the conquistador who actually, from what history tells us, he swiped the whole Aztec civilization, or it was a big catalyst. So it was. I was drawn in immediately. I hadn't read this any of the books before. I'm looking for sure, because I was a little bit lost, but it's almost like World of Warcraft type of
I
deal.
thought so too. You took my line. Yes.
Yeah, I was reading it. It was like, wow, this is like World of Warcraft in Aztec culture. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it was a fun story about body switching and spirits, and it was cool. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I found it to be like World of Warcraft meets the Great Crusade. But I think the and you mentioned it before, Reno. It's like it's really hard to get in when everything is fully developed and you've just seen the end of the film. But knowing Image, probably in a month's time, it's going to hit the trade. It's going to hit the store. So definitely check it out. I think it would be great to read it as a complete set. And and I just love the the feel of the I guess the characters finalizing their ambitions, and it actually got me interested in Hennis Cortez. I actually went back and read a bit about him. He actually started traveling to South America or the Caribbean when he was 18 years old. I mean, what were you doing at 18? That's insane, right?
Not traveling across country, that's for sure.
Yeah, and especially when you have no idea where you're going. But yeah,
right.
Good on him, right? Good on him. He spent 20 years in the Caribbean. So definitely, this is definitely like a history book / fantasy.
Yep.
A cool twist on that history. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think reading it from the first issue would be a good thing to do, because there's so many Mexican names in there, and I'm not talking about Mexican modern day, Mexican like Aztec names.
Hard to pronounce.
You get lost. You're like, wait, who's this? But I think if you read it from issue number 1, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is him, this is her, and I think it would be a good thing to just read the whole thing. I'm gonna look for the trade for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing about Image, is that they bring out all these books with different stories, different contrasts. Like we've covered 5 completely different books today.
Yeah,
you wouldn't even think they came from the same publisher.
Right.
Absolutely. That is so true. And I think that's big on the publisher to be able to, okay, you got a new idea. Let's take this. Let's run with it.
Right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's not a lot of publishers would do such a thing,
No, they're taking risks, and then obviously it's paying off.
Yeah,
they've really come a long way. Like Image, like I said, when I first was into them when I was a kid in the early 90s, I was an artist, so the art, every page was like a cover. You know what I mean? Like it was amazing art.
Yeah,
but the writing was a little bit lacking. But I think now they've definitely got a balance. They've definitely pushed the literature aspect. It's literature now. These are great stories.
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah, and some of the art may not be one to grab your eye, but it actually works based on the story being told. So don't always think that everything has to be a, Michael Turner or David Finch or a McFarlane or Silvestri type art. Right. It doesn't have to be like that to tell a great story.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, anything else you guys have been reading from Image before we wrap up?
Oh man, I've been reading so many indie comics lately that I get confused. Like I don't know which one. Like you say, Image is putting out so many different books that you don't know exactly if it's
Department of Truth. Something is killing the children. That's not Image. No.
Noctera.
Invincible was it? Oh, Noctera. That is awesome.
Oh yeah,
that's a great book.
Yeah,
Noctera is phenomenal. That's really cool. Highly recommend that. The art and the stories.
Yeah. So, guys, this is the first part of an image run that we're going to go through part 2 for the next couple of months after we talk about other publishers, because there are other publishers out there that we really want to create insight to. Really prefer it. I really appreciate it. Sorry, if you click like and subscribe through the YouTube channel as well as through the podcast channels as well, just to get more from the Comic Crusaders. But definitely, it's been a blast hanging out with you guys. Reno, thank you.
Definitely.
Manuel,
Likewise.
thank you. It's been
Thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. Absolute pleasure. So, guys, we're going to be kicking off another episode shortly. We might be talking Boom. We might be talking Valiant. Who knows? But just remember to hang out with the Sunder Katz, because we are the coolest cats in town.
No doubt.
Sunder Katz.
Yo!
Yo!
That was funny.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. And as I said before, keep reading indie comics.
Please.
For sure.
Thank you. We hope you've enjoyed this Comic Crusaders production. For real-time news on all things pop culture, please feel free to follow us on social media. For articles, original content, merchandise, and more, please go to www.comiccrusaders.com. Also follow along with all of the websites of the Comic Crusaders family. As always, if you like this content, please click like and subscribe to the Comic Crusaders YouTube channel.